Namaste. Welcome to all the participants of this international workshop on space sciences 2020 being organized by Space Education and Research Foundation. Wish you all a safe and productive day ahead. First, a small brief introduction about myself. I am Ramanathan Nandakumar. I am a former scientist engineer at the Indian Space Research Organization at Ahmedabad, and I am currently a consultant on quality of scientific communications and software. I can be reached at this email address, nanda.isro@gmail.com. And this title of our talk, as you see, we are going to talk about novel space applications, which are conventional space applications and novel space applications using navigation satellites. Actually, there is a recent webinar by SCRF conducted in December, if I remember right, webinar number 22 on satellite navigation by Dr. M.R. Sivaraman. For more details about navigation details and specifications and all about the international scenario, you can see from that. And I first take this opportunity to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this workshop and giving this talk. Okay. When we say novel, before going to novel, we should say what is conventional. Navigation satellites, you are all aware, they are started with GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, and recently for Indian components, NAVIC satellites or IRNSS satellites. These are global systems and regional systems which are providing navigation support for the region. Conventional applications relate to giving the position and velocity of either stationary or moving objects, either on land surface or on air. It helps in wayfinding from going from one point to another point. And also it leads to driverless vehicles and their automation like that. These are the conventional applications this will go, and these are the improvements in that line. What we are going to talk about is something different. Erecting monuments and then over land and sea. Primarily sea, the land is a conventional method. I am proposing monuments in sea, using which there are different applications which could be identified and used for the community. Let's go to the next slide. This scope of our applications is over the peninsular and island regions in the world. We all understand what is a peninsular region, covered by 3 sides by water and 1 side by earth. And island is also that you know all. And for peninsular and island regions, these applications, whatever we are going to talk about, will apply. These applications are both at systems level and at grassroots levels. Systems level in the sense, let's say we have a system of satellites, navigation satellites. For that, let's say we have to independently assess their quality. We establish a system called data quality evaluation system. That will be at a system level, which will provide the status of the health of the satellite's data over its mission life. While coming to grassroots level, the applications which relate to individual quality of life, how it improves, that kind of applications relate to grassroots level. Currently, whatever I am talking about this novel applications, these are all at idea stage. There are about 8 applications which I will be covering. Of course, there is further scope for expansion in all these most of these areas. First application is to serve as a 24/7 data quality evaluation system for the navigation data. Actually, with the navigation satellites started with the global positioning system by US. And of course, there are other GLONASS, Galileo, and Indian systems and Chinese systems. They are all there. But the problem, why there was a need for going with multiple systems, it all started with the selected availability option provision in the GPS system. The satellite operators were able to degrade the quality of the data whenever they wanted and at war times and things like that. It was under their control, and there was no way of knowing at any given time what is the quality of the data that is being offered by this navigation satellites. This position and velocity is being primarily the primary data which we compute from the satellite position vectors and time. This actually, this is the reason. The selected availability is the reason why individual other countries went ahead with their own either global system or regional navigational systems. Of course, these systems, they will have their own inbuilt orbit adjustment mechanisms based on the Earth station monitoring data available and all. The common men who are the users of this navigation data, there is, in my opinion, there's a need for a data assessment. What is the quality, accuracy, and precision of these data sets, whatever is being given to us? In the ideal conditions, at least, how they fare, how they do, that should be monitored. This is the first application it is proposed to serve as a 24/7 data quality evaluation system for the navigation data. The second application is to monitor sea level changes at various time intervals. As we all know, there are diurnal variations, high tide, low tide variations in the sea level, and monthly or fortnightly variations with the lunar positions. There are sea level changes, and to monitor. Actually, the mean sea level taken over an 18-year period is considered as a reference for many of the height computation purposes. To monitor if there is any sea level changes, gross changes are there due to ice melt or whatever in Arctic region or whatever reasons, if there are any changes, it should be monitored. I'm proposing to monitor these sea level changes by setting up these monuments and their locations in the sea surface at various time intervals, and to give early warning when there are gross changes. There are changes, appreciable changes which need to be worried about them. Coming to the third application, currently there is an exploit only mode of fishing zones and like that. I'm proposing to cultivate and maintain fish schools nearer to the coast around these monuments which we are proposing to build in sea, augmenting the food supply of the peninsular or island inhabitants. This we'll see in detail as we go about. And this is we are making conditions amenable for fish schools' growth and cultivation and their sustenance. Next, there are, of course, strategic applications are also possible with the methodology that I'm proposing by using add-on sensors, which is, of course, outside the scope of the current talk. The additional applications is to redirect sunlight. Actually, the whole idea of whatever I'm proposing, it started all way back in 1990 when I moved to my new house in near Isro, in a suburb of Ahmedabad, where there were plants in the garden where there were stunted growth because of lack of sunlight. I was wondering whether we could direct sunlight somehow to make these plants grow well. And recently in 2017, I reconstructed the house, and then I have placed a solar power plant on the rooftop. And this had some, because of serial connection and because of some shadow falling on some part of the panels, power used to drop drastically at some times. This also is another reason for me to go about thinking what could be done about this by redirecting sunlight, whether something could be done. Then it went on at a higher level, and by connecting these monuments or buoys, whatever we are telling, whether we can redirect sunlight and to extend the daytime duration by going below below the horizon sun light available to the land, and also enhance the solar power generation in the land, and increase the average daytime temperatures in winter months. Especially these alignments of these monuments or buoys have to be such that they capture the sunlight and redirect it to the land, or like that, so that average daytime temperatures over the land regions increase over winter months, and also serve as a disaster warning by changing the light conditions, or by physical flow of small mirrors and things like that, which are okay. I'll come to that. And it also helps in immunity building by, in the twilight region, when you have UV radiation, reflected UV radiation, it helps build the immunity of the persons. These are all various applications by redirecting sunlight, by connecting these buoys, which are located at specific locations, aligned at specific directions. These applications could be realized. These monuments over sea are made up of recycled plastic waste that is used in the construction primarily, and that way also it helps in using waste recycling. The main idea, as I said, is to erect monuments and use monuments in sea and land. Land portion is a very well-known thing. Actually, these are permanent fixed points where GPS receivers or navigation satellite receivers are located and continuously monitored, and they are considered zeroth order points. And then further on from there, you take it to the next level and next level, like that. You build a ground control points over the network of points, so that from which you can measure and propagate distances and level distance. And when it comes to sea, it is proposed to construct what are called buoys. Buoys are well-known conditions, but what we are going to we are proposing in the buoys in the sea are not only floating, but they will be stable. They will float at the same location, and they will be all aligned. A set of monuments which are all aligned in a particular direction and spaced at equal intervals, and which are tall and deep. These monuments are the main primary idea for giving rise to all these set of applications that we are talking about. I want to give another reference here. This is Director of IIT Madras giving his lecture on 60th Convocation on September 30th, 2019. This video is available on the IIT Madras website. He claims that IIT Madras has contributed over the years to erecting tallest self-standing structures on Earth, on Indian region, at several locations, using reinforced concrete, which are of the height of about 330 meters. I surmise he meant 330 feet, but however, it is irrespective of that. But the monuments that we are going to talk in sea are made up of plastic and made up of recycled plastic and plastic slabs like that. And these are of the order of 1 kilometer deep and 2 kilometers tall. And they are aligned and spaced equally on the eastern and western coast of the peninsular region or island region, redirecting sunlight. And on each buoy, we have a set of receivers which will collect data from the navigation satellites. Actually, the navigation satellite data will be used to position these buoys and permanently maintained there also. And it will be data will be collected, and they will be processed and to see how they are doing over the time. Each buoy will consist of a pyramidal skeleton base below the water with plastic pillars, and above the water a double pillar made up of reinforced plastic segments with a hollow aluminum double pipe at the center. This structure will have two slabs, one slab at the floating level and one slab at the bottom of the sea. They are about 1 kilometer deep inside the water. This is all connected structure. Because of this COVID lockdown situation, I am not able to provide you graphical representation of whatever I am talking about. I am able to only tell you orally how it can be realized. These large-sized structures are built using individual segments of about 3.125 meter each. And coming to the individual buoy design, we have, as I said, there are two slabs, one smaller slab and one larger slab in the surface of the water and one at the bottom of the buoy, bottom of the sea water. And on above the one, two at the surface level and one at the center and two on the top of the tall structure of the buoy. We have 5 navigation data receivers on each buoy. And we have data storage device kept at the center of the buoy. And we have a transmission facility through a communication satellite, antennas for that as part of the buoy design, which is there in the top of the each buoy. So as we have seen, there is a pyramidal skeleton at the bottom connecting the two slabs, and vertical, these are 4 pillars and 2 pillars and plus one central aluminum double hollow pipe rising from the bottom to the 2 kilometer above the sea surface. This is the structure of the buoy, individual buoy, and there are a set of buoys are there covering the entire length of the east and west coast of the peninsular region, not necessarily as a single sequence, single column, but as a individual segments. We can segment them into convenient sizes to allow for vessels to move in without any interruption like that. And these individual buoys they are self-standing structures, and when this is the design about individual buoys I have described. Coming to data processing, the data collected over the time interval, over 24/7, whatever data is collected at each of these receivers are communicated through the satellite, through the communication satellite, and stored at a central place. And for quality evaluation, they are processed. And also they are processed to see the monitored changes in the sea level at each buoy location. Actually, this whatever data processing is done, these results will be published at a particular website which is corresponding to this navigation systems, health of the navigation system or data quality evaluation systems, or this set of navigation satellites that we are currently using, that is designed for. And it will tell the accuracy and precision, and the data quality that we are telling is not only over the sea and buoy locations, but also they are compared with on land onshore monuments which are there, the buoy locations which are there, kept there, and their performance also they are compared. And we have the accuracy and precision of the data that is received from the navigation satellites at all times. With all ideal conditions we take geometric dilution of precision to be as desired, as ideal as possible. And we have, for more details on these technical terms, you can go to the Dr. Sivaraman's lecture and you will be able to more understand if you have difficulties in understanding. And these data, the accuracy and precision of these variation, the precision means the standard deviation of the data over time. That is what is coming as precision here, and the distances from these along these 5 receivers and among adjacent buoys receivers, and as a system of these points as compared to the variations on ground, how they fare on ground. Actually, an example of these ground locations could be this airports. We have parking bays. Each parking bay is denoted by a specific latitude, longitude, permanent point. If receivers are kept at these locations and they are continuously monitored and they are transmitted, they can be compared. How they are, what is the standard deviation and accuracy we are getting there, and what is the accuracy and standard deviation we are getting on the sea, and how they perform as a continuous quality display we can have at any time, and they can be referred by anybody whoever wants to use this data, and they can see this location and get benefited. And the next application we said is to monitor changes in sea level at each buoy location. This also some processing is required, and this processing is done at the central processing server system. And these, if any abnormal changes are identified after processing, they will be alerts will be generated and communicated to those who are responsible for governance. And similar other data processing elements also could be thought of for other applications, which could be added here. And coming to fish school cultivation and sustenance, actually there is another Space Education and Research Foundation webinar number 20, if I remember right, by Professor Harish Pad on space biology. He talks about exobiology, for living conditions in outer space, things like that. He is talking in that lecture. For those who are interested, you can see that on that subject. But what we are talking about, at each buoy, below the surface of the water, we use what is called hydroponics. Hydroponics is the way of plant growth in water without any soil medium. So we propose to grow plants in water, in sea water, around each buoy by providing light beneath the water, and using this solar springs power generated, we generate artificial thermal fronts around the buoys. And using these two conditions, we make the conditions amenable for school fish to cultivate and sustain. And this periphery of each buoy is there is a structure to be done around these buoys so that these conditions are covering the whole underwater portion of each buoy, and there are lights hanging from the periphery of this at the surface of the water, and there are reflecting panels which are placed at the slanted pillars or the pyramidal skeleton pillars. They are there, and which will give the light for the plants to grow beneath the water. And these artificial thermal fronts, by the with the solar power, we generate thermal fronts are generated around the periphery of the buoys and along the column of this thing. And then these are the two conditions: phytoplanktons or the plant material and the thermal changes. These are the two conditions which are required for fish growth, and these two are artificially generated, and they are the basis for the fish school cultivation and sustenance. And these are nearer to the coast, and people can be directed to go here and come here and fish and this thing. Instead of the exploit only mode, this is a better option, which will actually, there is another reference I wanted to give. If we go on exploit only mode, fish school, potential fish zones identification and capture fish over a long time, it will affect the ecosystem, and we may go to a system where it will go beyond, it will go more damage than sustenance. So for that, we wanted to suggest fish school cultivation and sustenance instead of exploit only mode, both cultivate as well as use. So this is coming to this fish school cultivation is one thing about around each boy. This is done. And for redirecting sunlight, we use a string of at the top of each buoy, we connect the two adjacent buoys with a sequence of array of concave and convex mirrors and additional flat panels below at a 2/3 height. Using this set of concave and convex mirrors, and because of their position and alignment, they redirect sunlight and the height of the panels, height of the buoys. Using these three conditions, we capture the sunlight at all times and redirect to the other side panels and also on the land, and we realize all the applications that we described earlier. And the attended benefits that we have seen earlier, that is immunity from UV radiation in the twilight regions, plus increasing the daytime duration, augmenting the solar power generation, and we have increasing the average temperature of land region over winter periods. Plus, we have disaster warning situations also. If there will be major changes in the mirror positions and buoy locations due to either wind or earthquake or conditions like that, there will be variations in sunlight which will be seen in the land region, and also there will be these plastic mirrors will get blown off and get blown towards the earth, and that will also be physical identification of these changes which will happen, which will give an early warning to the inhabitants about the impending disasters. Okay, coming to the references, I told 5 references if I remember right. First is we have the webinar by Dr. Emma Sivaraman, and second webinar by Professor Harish Pad on space biology. Third by Director IIT Madras Convocation Address, 60th Convocation Address in September 30, 2019. Fourth by this, there is a YouTube video on US national parks, how ecosystems change by introducing wolves, and that how it changes the course of the river in the national park. That is another reference. And one more reference is in Norway, they have done, they have mounted 3 giant-sized mirrors over the top of the hills, and there's a heliostat. They have, for each mirror has a heliostat, which will direct the mirror, align the mirror to sunlight, as well as direct sunlight to the town square of that village. This they have described in that reference. These are the references which I wanted to tell, and which are related to this material, what we have talked about. There are challenges, of course, which are not unsurmountable. They are very much under control, as I have thought, but of course, it needs to be discussed and with veterans, and before they get realized, there are challenges which have to be overcome, which are manufacturing individual buoy segments and slabs. These buoy segments, as I said, they are of about 3.125 meter length each, which will be erected up to 3 kilometer tall or 2 kilometer tall above the water and 1 kilometer below the sea. And these segments, each individual, they are made of recycled plastic, I said, but they will have reinforcements of virgin plastics, hardened plastics, and there will be the connectors, connector mechanisms, and then the fasteners for connecting and transporting them to ports, moving them to their individual slots, erection and commissioning, fine positioning of each buoy and alignment. All these are challenges which are, the last one is facilitated by the navigation satellite data itself. And this power generation using low horizon, low elevation sunlight is a preliminary work, in my opinion, for any human settlement in outer space, which we have to first generate power, and then only we will be able to live there. So this work will be of use. This proposal is of this work, whatever the redirecting sunlight using this series of buoys on water will be useful in that scope as well, in that condition as well, in my opinion. And thanks for your attention. I wanted to, before closing, I want to acknowledge a set of people. I have discussed this idea with three people, two deputy directors in ISRO, one Dr. D.R.M. Samudraya, one Dr. P.K. Pradeep Kumar Srivastava, and my elder brother, retired Air Commodore R. Jayakumar. And I thank all of them for their comments. And I thank the SPAREF, that is Space Education and Research Foundation organizers, is particularly Professor Hariom Works. And I thank I am thankful to my upbringing, and I'm thankful to my alma maters, my affiliations, and my career at ISRO. All of them have helped me in identifying this application proposal. Thanks for your attention.